Recorded. We're now on. So first thing, please everybody edit your name to be first name, last name, and then your company or your type of membership or your discipline. And then I would like to let you know that today's event is going to follow kind of a more traditional webinar format. We'll be heading into breakout rooms after the presentation, and both of our moderators will give you guys a little more information about that in a few minutes. And with that, I would like to introduce you all to TEA Master Lisa Passamonte Green. Hi, Lisa.
Thanks, Erica. Hello, everybody. I just want to welcome everyone on this Veterans Day to this Better Together webinar. It is hosted by the TA Masters and co-hosted by the Next Gen Committee. In this webinar, we're going to explore how a project is born. We'll examine the project development guidelines at this early stage, and we'll explain how and why projects are truly better when people and disciplines collaborate and work together. In the first half of the webinar, you'll hear from our four main TEA master speakers. In the second half of the webinar, we will be divided into breakout rooms for more intimate discussions on this topic, where we will be joined by 10 more TEA masters who will also speak to the topic. I'm pleased to introduce you to today's moderator from the TEA Next Gen Committee, Morgane Kiesling. She's the CEO and founder of the Themed Entertainment Creative Workshop Series. She spent the last 10 years as a concept designer and art director and has designed everything from animatronic characters to stage shows, live events, to museum experiences. Morgane is currently working as an art director for Super 78 Studios and also teaching in the art department at California State University, Long Beach. And now to the main speakers. Ray Braun is a member of the 2020 class of TA Masters. His craft is economic feasibility, which he has been doing for over 40 years. He is a founding principal of Entertainment Plus Culture Advisors, which specializes in entertainment development projects, recreation and tourism economics, and attraction development around the world. He's contributed significantly to establish and mature the entertainment economic feasibility analysis process originated by his mentor, Harrison Buzz Price. Welcome, Ray. Zsolt Hormé is one of my fellow 2019 TEA Masters, and he is the creative executive for the Themed Finishes art studio at Walt Disney Imagineering. His 30 plus years of specializing in rock work, sculpting and painting, theme finishes and creative direction has resulted in him being a world-renowned expert in the design, creation and construction of themed environments for theme parks, resorts, and other settings in China, France, Japan, and the United States. Welcome, Zsolt. John Lindsay is one of the original 2018 TA Masters, and he is recognized as a leading figure in project management. He has extensive international experience in the leisure, entertainment, and retail industries, leading multidisciplinary teams from inception through completion of construction and turnover to operations. His prestigious list of achievements includes Epcot, Tokyo Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland, 3 World Expos, and the first Warner Brothers retail rollout of 21 stores, just to name a few. Currently, John is a program director at Infusion, the project management arm of NASL. Welcome, John. Now on to Philip Van Stratum. He is also one of the original 2018 TA Masters, and he was recognized for his 30 plus years as a creative director. He is the CEO and creative director of PMP Projects, a design build firm based in the Netherlands, and has created projects for theme parks, zoos, museums, water parks, and visitors attractions all over the world. His work can be seen at Disneyland Paris, Europa Park, Tivoli Gardens, Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, Motion Gate Theme Park in Dubai, and Efteling in the Netherlands, plus so much more. Welcome, Philip. And then to Morgan and Chris Woolrich, they were the co-host for this, and Chris is our co-host for today's event. He is a director at DJ Woolrich Limited in the UK. He is currently a member of the TEA Europe and Middle East Board of Directors and also serves on the TEA Next Gen Committee. He's an AV specialist, installer, and programmer, and has been full-time with DJW since 2008. He maintains a distinguished reputation of being the company troubleshooter and problem solver. So I'm so happy to welcome everybody to this event. And now, Morgan, I'm going to turn it over to you as the moderator. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Did you introduce yourself? You did. Everybody else?
I did not.
Okay, well, you get to improvise 30
I'm going
seconds.
to improvise then. I didn't write myself up. So I'm Lisa Passamonte Green, and I'm the CEO and owner of Visual Terrain, a lighting design firm, and I was recognized in 2019 as a TEA Master for Lighting. Thanks,
Thank you,
Morgan.
Lisa. Welcome, Lisa. Hello, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you all. As you have just heard, we are among legends, not just legends, but TEA Masters. So this program is an absolute wealth of fun. And I would love to get us started with John. I believe you're going to get our ball rolling here. John, you are muted.
I just assumed Erica was going to unmute me, but I guess that was too much to. Anyway, all joking aside, good morning, everybody, and good afternoon, and good evening, and good wherever you are. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background. I was with TEA in the very beginning. I stepped away for many years, but in the very beginning, I was involved in the project development guidelines. So can we go to the next slide, please? So often everybody thinks about our industry as when did it really start? Some would say, IAPA certainly would say that it started when they did in 1918. That's a little bit of something to go back and think about. Others would say that it started with Disney and Disneyland. And I really think of the way we know it today, and certainly those who are my peers of my generation, it really started with Epcot and Tokyo Disneyland. And that created the wave that many of us today are involved in this industry. And in the beginning, there was no industry, there was no school to go to for this. We went to theater schools or to, motion picture, came out of motion picture, et cetera, et cetera. So next slide, please. When we came together as the TEA, oh, I don't know, no, that's Tokyo. There you go. Okay, next slide. So when we came together in the early 1990s, the TEA was formed. It quickly became evident that we really didn't have a process for us to develop projects from. We found that our vocabulary didn't match. The expectations of what steps we were going to go through didn't match. So we got together and we said, look, we really need a process to work effectively together, to understand the entire project development process, to improve the way we work together as a team, and to broaden our clients' understanding as we move through that. So why is this important? Next slide, please. Because if you don't have some form of process, you have a bit of chaos. And next slide, please. If you have too much process, you don't go anywhere. So you got to have the right balance. Next slide, please. So it's really about getting a roadmap, staking out some milestones along the way, making sure that everybody understands what the objective is, and lay out the plan. So TEA and their version 3, which is online, and I would urge you all to go to the TEA website and search the project development guidelines. They created a roadmap. This is the third round. I was involved in the first two, so I can't claim this board, but and in it, it really laid out that there are 4 basic phases of a project. The initial, develop the program, get concurrence on what the scope, schedule, and budget is for the project, and then move on to design, then move on to implement it, and of course, open the project. And they broke it down in 7 groups. But really, TEA has in divisions of work, if you think about typical construction, it's got about 30 divisions of work. In our industry, we've got upwards of 100 divisions of work. So this is really a simplified version of bringing it together. And the key focus of that first quadrant is really to develop the project program. Next slide, please. So, is it working? There we go. Click again. There, click again. There you go. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is this quadrant. But remember this roadmap over the series of the Better Together programs that are going to be unfolding over the next 12 months or so. Because we're going to walk through these quadrants and talk about what the importance of working together as a team is all about during these periods of time. But to ground you today, the key here in the beginning of a project, when you're determining if indeed it's a feasible project to do, it's about, do you have an intellectual property or a new creative idea that is there? If you have an IP, what are their requirements? Those are often the studios. What's the vision, the concept? The feasibility and investment capacity, how that all works together. Ray's going to talk a little bit about that. Zsolt, obviously, on the creative side and the intellectual property, as Philip is as well, as we move through that. And then execution plan, which is my favorite, of course. How are you going to get this delivered? So without any further ado, I think that takes you through the initial setup on where we are. Morgan, I think I turn it back over to you.
Thanks, John. The project development guidelines are a fantastic resource for the history of how we've been doing things and also our roadmap moving forward in a project. So focusing on those milestones is a great way to make sure your team is aligned. And when we assemble and have a creative vision and a business plan and a plan to execute the work and deliver a project, all of that comes together. So let's begin our questions. The first thing I'd like to ask is, Ray, how does a project begin?
Thank you, Morgan. Good to be with you today. We, as the economists, are involved in the early stages of the project. And projects come to us in different ways. Someone has an idea, a new concept for an attraction. These ideas range from really good to really terrible. The developer who has some land, wants to do something with it, comes to us and wants to put a project together. We get a lot of referrals from intellectual property companies or existing park operators. Often a city or a county or a country will reach out to a studio to come build a park in that location. The first question the studio will ask is what's the market and is it feasible? And that's when we get called. We also get referrals from entertainment design companies, and because the people with the ideas may come to them first. And we try to collaborate with most of those companies. I had a couple of pictures. If you show the next slide, Morgan. The one on the left is Neverland. We were called to take a look at Neverland as a possibility of an attraction. Obviously, there's fantastic content there, but the idea was could not be implemented because of terrible real estate restrictions. The other one on the top right is a newly announced project. This is in Tokyo, Toshimayan Amusement Park. We looked at probably 60 sites for the new Warner Brothers Studio Tour Making of Harry Potter, and finally settled on this location in Tokyo. And the last picture is the giant panda reserve in Chengdu, China. Over the last decade or longer, China has been the biggest global originator of new attraction planning. So I thought I'd mention China. But really, who doesn't love a panda picture? Back to you, Morgan.
Thank you, Ray. I always love a good panda picture. So the next question that would naturally get asked then is, you've had someone come in who was interested. Then how does the team come together? So who are the key players at this stage? John, if you wouldn't mind taking this question.
So, thank you. And, you know, as it says, it's very organic in the beginning. Ray pointed out, well, you might have it come to you through a business plan. It might come through a creative vision, or as you noted, it might come with a piece of land. And frankly, when we were doing Hong Kong Disneyland, it came with a piece of water, and we had to reclaim that site. But when you put it together, it's really about, in the early stage of really understanding who the people are and getting the right people together at the right time, and really pacing yourself for that. Regardless of how it comes together, I think the best piece of advice I ever got was from Orlando Ferrante, who talked about, I would go to him with questions, and I particularly did this when we were doing Shanghai, and I would go to him with the question of the day, so to speak, and he would always end his wise words to me by saying, well, you know, John, you get the right people together and you empower them and you'll do just fine. So it's about getting the right people together at the right time, making sure they all know what direction they're headed and what the objectives are, and then aligning them to that. And that builds over time as a process. Morgan?
I did it. I didn't unmute myself. Goodness. I was just saying thank you, John, for your insightful response. We've got some lovely photos of you here pointing.
Well, there you go. That's bringing people together and getting them aligned. For Shanghai, and top right is the water of Penny's Bay being reclaimed. And then down below is a recent site I was on for a project. So wonderful. They start in different ways.
There you have it. Let's move on to our next question here, and this one's going to be for Philip. So, what actually has to happen before you start the design on a project?
Well, not much. I usually get a mail and a phone call, like my previous speakers already said. Then there's probably a plot and an idea and so on. So once that telephone comes, the head process starts off with, and you can't stop it anymore. So that's relatively easy. So if you have a Formula One franchise movies or cartoon related stuff or space related stuff, then it's really easy to go along stuff that I'm interested in. It gets harder when the subject is not that close to you. In case of when we do museums and so on, we had some great science museums where I sit around a table with about 27 scientists talking about red and green gen technology. Then it becomes a little more tougher job, but then you get into the research and whole new worlds open, and you'll again find amazing stories, and usually you'll find people as passionate as yourselves, and and then it becomes really easy again. So we start then off, like I said, with blue skies, and sometimes there's already a concept and a story, or even a full-grown plan. That's where we step in, and sometimes just a part of an attraction where a mechanical design has to be done and finished. Trying to make that happen to get the best effect out of it. So, in that case, that's how we work, and that's how we kick off.
Hey,
Over to
Morgan,
you.
I'm gonna jump in before you go to the next question, and I'm just gonna politely remind all of our masters and our amazing speakers that we unfortunately have a lot of ground to cover, and so we have to be as concise as we can in all of our answers, and then to make sure that we save room for the breakout rooms too, so we can get into the more detailed portion of the answers there. So thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Philip. A name was brought up in John, your answer. You mentioned Orlando Ferrante. Can you just give us a quick overview of who that is for those who are watching and don't know who this person is?
Sure. And by the way, I was just flipping through all the pages and pages of people that are on. I'm impressed with the number of people. So Orlando, some of you, and I know that there's some on, such as Patrick Brennan that is on, who know Orlando from days gone by. But Orlando was the delivery executive paired with Marty Sklar, who was the creative executive for Disney years and years ago. And he was certainly a key mentor to me as I was coming up through the ranks.
Wonderful. Just thought it would be worth sharing since he was such an influential name. All right, let's move on here. Oh. All right, this question is for Mr. Joel Hormé. Why is collaboration so important?
Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for making the time to join us, and it's an honor to be here. And to answer the question, collaboration is everything, and not just building theme parks, but basically every aspect of our lives should have collaboration written all over it in a way. So in terms of working together with project management and creative, I mean, it's essential. I mean, you can do it one way or you can do it the other way. One way is a good collaborative effort where we can actually leverage each other's talent and experience and respect, or we can just kind of, walk by each other in the office and, grunt something, right? So, I mean, to me, that's kind of like the beauty of working together, because we are after different things, but at the end of the day, it is the same goal, a successful, beautiful project. So as long as we can, create, to me, immediately, a project manager and a creative person should be immediately a partner from the get-go. And I think that is the essence of a good project team, and that would obviously transpire to the whole entire team if we have that beautiful collaboration and kind of a great ambience or a great working climate. I think that's very important, because then people can think differently and go beyond and above what they thought that they could on each project.
Thank you, Jolt. So trying to understand, I'm so sorry. What's that?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me about the pictures, but that's okay.
If there's something you want to share, please share. They're great photos.
Oh, no, just collaboration. I mean, these are moments of collaborating. I mean, you can have a creative lead who makes all the decisions, or you can have a creative lead who checks with the team, who includes other people's opinion as well. And these are just moments how that works, around the globe. You can see some of the, the lower right corner. I'm working with the Japanese art directors in Tokyo. Behind me, there's with Fabrice Canel, who's a great friend and colleague of mine on Avatar. And then the upper right corner is TDS, Tokyo is the seas, where we're actually testing a waterfall. It's all collaboration. It's wonderful.
It is wonderful, and I love those photos. Here's what happens when collaboration comes together. Some beautiful work. So trying to understand who is needed is tied to what has to be done. So Ray, back to you. What are the key tasks and goals of the early project stage? Ray, you are muted.
So sorry, forgetful me. Moving backwards in time from the pictures that Zolt showed us of sort of the actual building of the project, where you have to start with really understanding what the client is trying to accomplish, what the goals for the project are, what his objectives really are. And sometimes that takes a little time to really flush out. Understand what the direction of the project is, what the scale of the project is. Of course, we're real estate economists, so we have to evaluate the site and what the opportunity there is, and then assemble the appropriate team. And we'll talk a lot more about that as we go on, but this picture on the left, Terracotta Warriors, is just sort of indicative of you need a big team to pull these kind of projects off. And the one on the right is Animal Kingdom. It's just a good picture of an epic theme park. But it's also, I wanted to make a reminder, I think someone mentioned it earlier, that on the economic side of the project planning, entertainment project planning spectrum is a iconic figure, Harrison Buzz Price. And he started when Walt Disney started our industry, when Walt Disney came to him to help plan Disneyland back in the early 50s. And that's where I start my definition of the industry, John. But Buzz, sometime later, hired me, and we went on to further develop some of his original ideas of how you approach these projects.
Great, thank you, Ray. We're going to go back to John then. So Ray, you were just talking about putting your team together. John, can you weigh in on how we put a team together?
Sure. I think it all starts with listening. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and that is to listen twice as hard, right? So it's really important to understand Ray's economics of the project and the creative vision as that is articulated to you. And really then it's about, as I said earlier, about onboarding the team and pacing it to the phase of work that you're in. Too often, we see one of two things happen, and that pacing basically gets out of alignment with the effort of the work. Either we staff too early or we staff too late. And trying to staff at that right balance as you put that team together is very, very important. And again, as I said to you before, you got to empower them. Make sure that the roles and responsibilities are clear, that everybody shares the objective, right? And integrate and align that team. You're going to hear me talk about alignment quite a bit. Real important. And it's the key ingredient to a successful project. Back to you.
Thank you, John. Back to you, John, in the studio. Thank you. So the worlds of creative visioning and project management are often seen as very dynamically opposed. So Philip, would you let us know if there's a tension between creatives and PMs, please? Maybe go into some detail on that.
Yeah. Well, I would almost say never, but there's always tension, of course. You got the financial tension, and whether it's a planning tension or in the worst case, you have tension on both, where creators always want more than the project allows for. That's something you have to really work together on it. And then we have the, as a manufacturer, we also have the internal project managers who keep track of the financials internally, and then we have to deal with the project managers on site, which have to make a decision. Sometimes they have to cut something because they run over budget. So yeah, there's always tension. But luckily for internally in my company, I wear multiple hats, so I can make the calls on design and production, and then it's a matter of trying to focus on the right effects, the emotions and details that tell the story. So I would try to do that without cutting a lot. So well, you see the picture here is I'm in debate with the at Motion Gate, where my project manager from the Motion Gate team from the client side talking about in the back where we had a finished set, and if you look beyond the mirror, there was a part cutout that facility did. So yeah, then we have some tension going on at that point. And but usually, you know, that's what all collaboration is about. You're there to solve those problems and move ahead. Up to you, Morgan.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I'd like to bring in a couple of project managers. So how do you see this relationship? This one's going to be for John and Jolt. So can you describe an ideal project management and creative relationship? We'll start with John. John, you are muted.
Yeah, the minor details. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, so Jolt obviously taking on the creative aspect of this conversation. I'll take on the project management side of it. You know, what's really important is you've got two visions, right? You've got the creative leader. They have the vision for what fits with the scope, schedule, and budget that the owner sets out, the program for the project. The project manager is responsible to deliver that creative vision within the schedule and the money provided. So those two opposing forces work together, and when they work together the best, they see the same objective. They share their points of view. They listen to each other. Again, real important to listen, right? All of that is what drives a great team. You have to put yourself in the other person's shoes and listen to them. And when you don't listen to your colleagues, that's when you run into friction. Because ultimately, you want the same thing, which is a great project at the end of the day. And these are all creative. They're all entertainment driven. So what makes a home run is really about delivering that creative vision to the highest and fullest extent. Joel?
I don't know what tension everybody's talking about. One of my best friends are PMs. However, to be more realistic, that is very important to really truly nurture that relationship. And there is this preconceived idea that, you know, project managers always worry about money. Creative people have no idea about money. And that's not true. That's just not true. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, there are a lot of creative folks out there who are very fiscally responsible. And there are a lot of project managers who are very sensitive to the creative aspect of a job. And I think that is the key, because either you fight all the way to the process or you tackle, you know, challenges together and try to figure out which ones are worth to really drive home, or which ones are, okay, maybe I can live without that, but I really can't live without that. And then work on those issues together and work them out together. Very easy to say. The power of saying no, or I don't have the money, that's frankly, it's pretty easy to say. However, if I come to a project manager with the dilemma, and instead of saying, no, I don't have the money, says, you know what, let's think, what options do we have, or what can we consider in order to achieve what you're after creatively? And I think that is the magic between a good relationship between project management and creative.
After all, they say two heads is better than one.
That's right. But one has to be a PM, one has to be a creative.
We've got two of the best right here, right now, live for you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen. So moving on, and this is going to be for Ray. What are the powers that be need to approve for the project to progress forward?
Well, they're pretty much coming to grips with the things we've been talking about, Morgan. You know, the team, everybody agrees who the team is and that it's fully in place, that we have a good understanding of the concept. And once again, as an economist, I'm talking about the front end of the project when the broader planning is going on. And so some of the things that John and Zolt and Philip have been talking about have been sort of later stage in actually building out the attractions. But you know, the preliminary business planning, the feasibility, the understanding the investment levels, understanding infrastructure requirements, and the use of intellectual property. Once again, these are very front end kind of issues. Those are the things that the powers that be have to agree on to give a go on the project. I'm showing this picture of Legoland, Malaysia. This is opening day in Malaysia, because talking about powers that be, this was a project that was approved at the national government level of Malaysia. They wanted to build a tourism industry, and Lego was one of the first legs of building that industry. So it had approval at the national government level. And then Merlin Entertainments and Lego wanted to start building parks in Asia. So this was part of their corporate strategy of how to enter the Asia market. So, and we played a key role in bringing both Malaysia and Lego together on this. So that's sort of a high level of powers that be that have to agree.
Fantastic. So how do these decisions that we're talking about ultimately end up getting packaged and served to the leadership for approval before we move forward? John, if you wouldn't mind taking this one.
So a lot of companies, a lot of established companies use the gate process. And the gate process, the notion of the gate process is basically taking scope, schedule, and budget, the program of the project, and making sure they're aligned and in balance before you proceed to authorize funding for that project. Now, projects that come together organically, not with the big studios that do this or the developers that do this on a regular basis, they tend to come together much more organically. And as a result, they tend not to have that solid a start. And we always urge people to focus on this gate process whereby you align. You also have to go out there, by the way, and you have to go out and do your comparables and get everybody to have the same understanding in their head. So, of course, on the right-hand side here, here's a little fun with the Hong Kong government trying to get them all in alignment of what we're undertaking to as we go through it. But it starts with standing at the board, going through a bunch of documents and trying to get people to understand and see and make sure that all the pieces that you're going to commit to are all balanced and in check with each other. And that's the gate process.
Wonderful. So sounds like there's a balance between this business plan and the creative vision and the delivery of the project. I know we've talked a little bit about tension. It kind of feels like maybe it would be interpreted that way. So what's the secret to deliver a project that is successful, that creatively, but also financially? If we could have Zsolt and Philip weigh in on this one. Let's start with Philip, please.
Yeah, for me, the secret, there is no real secret for it. That's financially, you have to do your homework, and you can easily get to know the specs and try to figure out what you're designing, what the facility does, what the fire ratings do. Are we building in an earthquake zone, and all those kind of things that matter. So making sure your prices do not skyrocket. Creatively, it's a different story. You never know if what you've designed up for an audience is a hit, that it really works. There are some projects that are not that everybody was really fired up about, but the final result wasn't really there. There's a lot of stuff being cut. A lot of projects are never. A lot of projects are not built as the intention was because of some cuts as well. So yeah, and that's not always known to the main public. So as long, for me, it's a success when you see people coming out with a smile and want to do the rides or whatever, do them again and again, and come back to the parks. Zsolt, for you.
Yeah, well, I'm a little different. I mean, the tension, I think, in Philip's case is within Philip, right? Because he's wearing two hats. I'm fortunate that I'm usually, my job is to worry about what it's going to look like at the end of the day. However, that said, of course, there's tension. There's tension because, a creative person, of course, would like to always do a little bit more. And there has to be that balance between reality and dreams and creative vision. But that said, that doesn't mean that creative people cannot have sensitivity towards budget and schedule, and they do. And I think that if you kind of look at from a project management, point of view, the equity of the decision that you're making, right? I mean, yes, the biggest, dilemma is always who's going to do the job. Well, we need people who are experienced, who are talented, who are well known. Well, they're unfortunately usually more expensive than others, right? So is that a good decision to make? Of course, it's more expensive, and I could probably do as a project manager without having the stars hired or key players hired, but then the project is not going to be the same. So those decisions have to be kind of be mixed with a creative sensitivity, yet with the fiscal responsibility. So, and then sometimes, as we know, we're usually looking back, particularly looking back, that if you spend a little bit extra on good quality, whether it's material or system or talent or people, you definitely going to end up with a better product. And sometimes just by spending a little bit more on, let's just say, talent, that can create a much superior product for the same amount of money than not, or to avoid that extra expenditure. So yeah, there's this invigorating tension, I would say that, hopefully. So, but I think that helps both sides. It helps everybody to kind of aim and achieve the same goal at the end of the day.
Wonderful. And just looking through these photos here, we've got some beautiful pictures of one of my favorite attractions. Right before that, I just wanted to call and just shout out, because I see that Jaap is on the call right now, and because of him, a group of us, we were able to actually see this in person. Philip's beautiful work here and that whole team at Efteling. We got to see that in action, so thank you for that, as well as obviously this fantastic, beautiful shot here. I hope everyone has gotten a chance to see it at Animal Kingdom in Orlando. So we're kind of talking about the creative there and the idea of tension, but let's talk about tension within the business model. Ray, please.
Well, of course, there's tension between creative and business. It is, after all, show business. But I would say, it's the creative's job to want more money and to do better attractions. The idea is, how do you balance that? Can you have a better performing project with better design? Yes, but ultimately you have to balance what you build with return on investment. And that's the way our clients generally think. I'd also like to say, once again, I'm talking about the beginning of projects, that it's an iterative process. Both sides need to learn at each stage what's required to create a successful project. So we inevitably go through many iterations. This picture shows Efteling. Philip could talk much better about this, but this shows some of the richness of storytelling, where extra money was spent in more focus on this attraction, which actually ended up becoming a signature attraction for the park. So this was a payoff of spending more. Once again, this is at the attraction level. I operate, and my firm operates mostly at the early planning stages. So a lot of times our question is more like, do I spend $1 billion or do I spend $1.5 billion to build this project? Not, from the whole project perspective. So there's sort of both those levels to consider: the individual attraction level and total project level.
I think it really did pay off. It is gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ray. So our last sort of single answer question here, with regards to preconceived ideas within the project management and creative relationship and how things can actually go in real life, what is myth and what is reality? John, if you please.
Very simple. Myth is that project management and creative don't get along. Reality is you gotta get along, and you gotta see the same thing, and you gotta collaborate. Very simple.
Wonderful. Words to live by. So we're going to do a little roundtable here. Just an overarching question, since you've mastered your craft and are being recognized by your peers as our masters within the TEA. Is it well, what is the hardest part of your job? And if we could just go down the line, I guess, well, John, do you want to kind of continue on and then lead that forward? And then we'll hear from Ray, then Jolt, and then Philip.
Without a doubt, the hardest part of my job is keeping the team in alignment. That means everybody is proceeding in the same pace, in unison. They see the same things. They understand where they handshake with their colleagues. They understand how they're dependent upon others and for them to perform, vice versa, etc. So single word, alignment. That's my hardest job, part of the job.
And keeping with that single word, let's try to, as we've got to power through this and we hear through the rest, let's give our top hardest part of the job in one sentence.
My sentence is managing expectations. Everyone thinks their idea is the best thing ever. Sometimes we have to reduce those expectations and inject some reality.
Perfect. Thank you. Jolt?
To me, fighting for the obvious things that are essential to create a successful project over and over and over again, and to sell yourself every time you start a job that, yes, I can do that job for you. Those are just getting really redundant after a while, but hey, we just deal with it.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Philip.
Well, for me, as an entrepreneur, it's the hardest part of the job is not getting the job that you fought for, that you put with the team, put weeks of effort in it, calculating, trying to figure out how to do it, find that way, and finally saying somebody beat you in price. And then the really worst part is then after it's been built, you see that it doesn't come near of what you were offered, and many cuts have been made. So, but in the end, the projects that we do is it's mostly going through the mile, the fist thick contracts we have to deal with, and all the paper trail. As makers, you always want to make things. And that's what the people look at. They don't see all the paper trail. They see the beautiful outcome as you just shown in the results in Symbolica with that great Efteling design. And yeah, then that really makes it all worthwhile.
Wonderful. And let's move on to our last question. I can imagine it never gets old, but what is the most intriguing part of what you do? And again, let's lightning round down the line. Let's start with John.
The implementation plan that we talked about in the very beginning of this phase, that by far is the most interesting job to me.
Thank you. Ray?
For me, what I like, since we're involved in the very beginning of these projects, is hearing the new ideas, talking to the people coming that are coming to us with the greatest new concept. Some are doable and some are total dreamers. But and then how do you make that idea or that vision into some reality with some business sense? But even if an idea sounds crazy, you have to hear these people out coming with these new ideas, because you could be talking to the next Walt Disney.
That would be a tall order. Jolt, how about you next, please?
Yeah, I know we're short of time, so I'm just going to make this quick. For me, three things are very important. Number one is I hope that every time I start a job, I can outdo what I've done last time, or what my team and our team have done the last time. I think that's very challenging, but invigorating at the same time. Also, I must focus. I think one of the most important things and the most invigorating things is putting a team together, the right team together. And as a proof, people I work and surround myself with, we work together sometimes 30 years, 25 years, 15 years. We're talking decades, and the same team is kind of moving around the world. And we're picking up new ones, of course, but the whole process of creating and composing teams is wonderful. And of course, part of that is to be able to teach and mentor others, the young people. I mean, to me, that doesn't get any more invigorating than that, really. So those are the three things for me.
Thank you so much, Jolt. And rounding us out, last but not least, before we move into our breakout rooms, Philip, your thoughts.
Well, for me, it's of course when we do a creative design, it's great to finally walk around in that stuff that you put on paper, and you know, from short scribbles and walking around that full world, and in our case, that we work with the different teams all together, so that you start off sometimes as total strangers and then end up as the best friends at the end of the game, makes it really worthwhile.
Wonderful. And that concludes our fantastic conversation with our masters, our question portion. So Lisa, did you want to sort of lead us into our breakout session? Who wants to sort of orchestrate that?
Sure. I know Erica is ready to whisk us away to the various breakout rooms. We are running a little short on time, so we're going to keep those breakout rooms to 20 to 30 minutes at this point. If you need to drop off and you can't join us, please feel free to do so, but we're hoping that you'll join us. In each breakout room, there will be a TA master. This is when all the other TA masters join us, and a next gen facilitator. And we're looking forward to seeing you there and continuing the conversation. Erica, take us away.
Yeah, that's the plan. All right, everybody. In just a second, I'm going to push us all into the rooms. And it should happen automatically. If you guys have any issues, just come back out to this main space and I'll do my best to help you. All right, here we go.
Everybody hold hands.
Everybody hold hands. And I forgot to mention, we will come back here just for a 2-second wrap up at the end of the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like Joel said, everyone hold hands. Everyone hold your breath. Okay, here we go. Welcome back from your breakout rooms, everyone. Hello, hello. Let's see if I can find Lisa in here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you see me? So my camera, for whatever reason, when we went out to the breakout rooms, it switched monitors on me. So now you all get a different view behind me. But I just wanted to wrap up and say thank you so much for attending today's webinar. We hope that you learned something new in addition to hearing some amazing words of wisdom from all of the TEA masters who were present today. And we also hope that this webinar was a great example of how our industry is better together when multiple generations, varying perspectives, and a variety of disciplines come together to explore how we can bring a project from the spark of an idea to opening day. And then I want to also say, be well to everyone. It's a crazy, crazy time. So continue to reach out to each other, and be sure to join us on December 9th, 2020, when we celebrate the new slate of 2020 TA masters, many of whom were here today. We're so excited to have them amongst us, and we're so excited all of you were here today. Thanks. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, masters. Thank you, moderators. Yeah, have a great day. If you guys have feedback, feel free to email us at memberservices@teaconnect.org. But yeah, I hope you're all staying safe. Thank you.
And thanks to all of those speakers today too. And Morgan, great job moderating.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Goodbye.
It's like waving at a parade.